Hi everyone, I'm Laura Finn and I will be doing this video on Carson McCullers' The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. The version I did was Mariner Books. I love this picture of Carson on the front. I watched a video of her on the internet and I was actually surprised to see her smile because this is what I think of when I think of Carson McCullers. Anyway, so I was scheduled to do the second part of this book. We didn't have a video for the first part, so I thought I would briefly talk about the first half. In the first half, we were introduced to the characters. First, we met John Singer and Spiros Antonopoulos. They were deaf-mute roommates and friends for 10 years. That is ended when Antonopoulos gets a changed personality. He becomes antisocial and uncontrollable. This prompts Singer to move into a local boarding house after Antonopoulos is committed to the psych ward. We are then introduced to Biff Brannon, who owns a local cafe. His restaurant is open all hours, and he presides over his domain. The narration changes in this chapter from an omniscient voice to that of Mick Kelly, who is the teenage daughter of the owners of the boarding house where Singer moves. She takes care of her younger brothers and is passionate about music. And we see her follow music, actually. She is also discontent with her lot in life then, and then the narration switches again, and it goes to Jake Blout and focuses on his settling in or trying to settle into this town. Jake is a socialist who sees his responsibility as enlightening the world, or at least the economically oppressed. He wants to get everyone to get on board with some radical change. His narrative then leads into the narrative of another oppression fighter, and that's Dr. Copeland. Although their tactics are different, we see that there is similarity in their fight. In addition, Dr. Copeland's children have not become the success that he has planned. In part one, we see McCuller unite the 5 main characters in this novel. Okay, on to part two. In part two, we see development of the slice of life scenarios where we learn more about the characters. We see Mick in the beginning. She throws a party for kids from her school. She wants to fit in and she wants to get to know more people. But that doesn't go quite as she planned. She takes up walking through the rich neighborhoods to listen to their radios at night. As I said, she follows the music. Mick starts to write music, and she writes music despite her limited knowledge in how to do so. She loves music, that's her passion, at least while in the first part of the second half. She's really into the music. We see sexual tension increase between her and her neighbor, Harry. They go from going for a walk, a prom walk, to wrestling, and then finally leading up to the swimming trip where they culminate this sexual tension into an afternoon of passion. And then finally, in the end, we see that Mick gets a job. She gets a job, and she is surprised at having I guess, matured, because part two covers the span of a year. So we see Mick go from trying to be an adult and not quite making it, to actually maturing and taking on responsibilities, although she is a little reluctant to do that. Okay, then we see Biff, Biff Brannon. Biff Brannon's wife dies, and he shows little remorse. After she dies, he changes the apartment, as well as some personal practices. He starts to put on perfume. He starts to wear his wife's perfume. Maybe we wonder why he wears his wife's perfume. Is it really, similar to the ring he wears? He wears a ring that was his mother's, and maybe he feels closer to Alice, maybe in a good way, maybe it's a good memory of her, or is it something else? We see that he changes aesthetics. He starts to think more about aesthetics by making his room look better, more the way he wanted it. He changes the window display from being just functional to maybe a little more pleasing to the eye. And at the end, we see Biff, pretty consistent. At the end, he's just questioning, really, singers' change and contribution in life. I personally did not see a solution, just open-ended questions at the end. We also see Dr. Copeland. Dr. Copeland is the doctor who he wants to further the black. He wants to remove black oppression, furthering the interests of the black person, the black society. He became a doctor, and he's very helpful to his community by providing the services that they need. We see that he discovers he has tuberculosis. He doesn't have much recourse for a cure. He's the father of children, Willie, Portia, and forgot his name, the communist, Karl Marx. So yes, the Karl Marx name that he named his child made me kind of look up what he named the other children for. So Willie was a little difficult. There's a couple of Williams that maybe he named them after, and I found one, and I didn't take notes on it. I can't remember. But Portia was a character in a Shakespeare play that affected difference. So I thought that was a little interesting, but I don't have those notes with me. Maybe you'd be interested in looking more about the names. Anyway, so Dr. Copeland throws a Christmas party for the needy, where he uses the event as a platform to get the community to think bigger, to think more about how they can change and how education makes all the difference. So they provide this award to the best writer of how we can change the community, and a boy, I don't remember his name, Lance wins this, even though Dr. Copeland doesn't really like the boy. He likes what he's saying and that he'll stand up for what he believes. And then we see later Lance dies in an altercation supporting those views that he believed in. Dr. Copeland finally, his son Willie gets arrested and He goes to the sheriff's office, and the white sheriffs, they arrest him, and he's upset because Willie lost both of his feet in a tragic, unnecessary incarceration event. So Dr. Copeland gets really upset and wants to do something about it. Ultimately, he doesn't make any difference in that front. At the end, Dr. Copeland is forced to leave town and go live with his son on the farm. Then we have Jake. Jake shares Copeland's ideas of being a socialist. He has anti-capitalist ideas. He meets with Singer. He's an alcoholic. He goes on these tirades. He doesn't control his temper very well. He goes to meet Dr. Copeland on a visit where they share their mutual similar worldviews and goals. And although they don't actually end that conversation very meaningfully, they do earn some respect for each other because their views are very similar. And last but not least, I'll talk about John Singer. John Singer, of course, is the deaf mute. We met with Antonopoulos, and he is a solitary guy. He is surrounded by Biff and Mick and Jake and Dr. Copeland, and they're all tied to Singer, and they seem to benefit from spending time with him. So it leads me to my questions. John Singer is a central character. We see the others are drawn to him for their various reasons. But I started this conversation talking about Mick. So do you believe that the story is about the Singer or John Singer, or is it about Mick Kelly? What are your thoughts on that? Another question is, the original title was called The Mute. So the publishers changed the title from The Mute to The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. Do you think this title is more appropriate, or did they make a more accurate title with the change? So is The Mute, do you think The Mute really identifies the story a little better? Or do you think that the change was a good reason, and why, or why not? Common Thought has loneliness as a central theme to this book. She is, McCullers is known for writing about loneliness. Her books tend to revolve somewhat around this loneliness, ideal of loneliness. Do you agree, or have other ideas as to what that central theme is? So do you think it's loneliness, or do you think there are some other ideas that might be in play here? Next, the narrator voice changes throughout the book. Do you think this is an effective strategy? Do you find it a little disconcerting? Does it put you off, or does it confuse you? Or do you think that it really kind of helps move the story along? Fifth, Singer is a place for others to find solitude. Is there a commonality among the four who seek his company, and are those feelings mutual? Do they love him? Do they love him? Number 6, Singer kills himself in what seems to be a simple thing to do. Do you agree that it was easy for him to do it, and if so, why? So do you think Singer was able to kill himself easily? Was it a big deal? Or do you think he said, well, should I, or did he just kind of do it? And my last question is, this book was written in 1940. Is it a timeless fictional account or is it dated? Do we still grapple with similar issues today? You know, and what did you think about the book? I actually enjoyed the book a lot. I like the way Carson McCullers writes. I really feel like I'm drawn into the story, and the characters are always interesting. And, you know, we read a little bit about the freakish in some of her works and the grotesque. And maybe I kind of am gravitating to that. And I think maybe the general public likes that as well, because if it's ordinary, we see that every day. Anyway, so those are my thoughts, and that's my recap of the book, The Heart is a Lonely Hunter by Carson McCullers. I look forward to hearing your comments and what your thoughts are. Have a great day. Bye.